You wake up, the alarm pulling you out of the only truly free hours you have left in your existence. Before your feet even touch the floor, before you have poured your coffee or looked at your phone, a silent, invisible meter starts running in the background of your life. It is a meter calculating the daily interest on your car, the interest on your home, the minimum payment on the plastic card you used to buy the groceries sitting in your fridge right now. You are breathing, and simply because you are breathing, you owe somebody money. This is not an accident of your personal financial management, nor is it a stroke of bad luck. You have been carefully, methodically guided into an invisible architecture, designed entirely to siphon the economic energy. Most people feel a vague, low-level panic every time they look at their bank account, but they brush it off, assuming everyone lives like this. They tell themselves that carrying balances, making monthly installments, and praying for an end-of-year bonus to clear the slate is just the normal, unavoidable cost of existing in the modern world. But this normality is a carefully constructed, highly profitable illusion. What you call normal, the top 1% of the financial elite call a systemic yield farming operation, and the crop they are harvesting is your finite time on this earth. You have been engineered from childhood to believe that borrowing from your future is the only way to survive your present. But there is a dark, systematic progression to this trap. It does not happen overnight. It is a calculated descent that captures the smartest, most hardworking individuals, stripping them of their wealth before they even realize they are losing the game. Today, we are going to dissect the exact anatomy of this capture. We are going to walk through the precise psychological stages that drag you into the abyss, financial matrix that demands nothing less than your lifelong servitude. To understand how you become entirely owned by the financial system, we first have to examine the nature of the trap itself and the architects who built it. The word credit comes from the Latin word creditum, which literally translates to a thing entrusted, or a belief. The massive banking conglomerates want you to believe that credit is a tool for your empowerment, a golden key that unlocks a luxurious life you deserve but cannot currently afford out of pocket. In reality, credit is the sophisticated mechanism through which your future labor is commodified, packaged, and sold to institutional investors before you have even performed the work. The financial system views the global middle class not as a demographic of human beings, but as a reliable asset class. You are essentially a walking corporate bond, yielding a steady return of 6, 12, or 24%, paid for by the sweat of your daily commute and your mounting stress. This brings us to level 1 of the debt trap, which we can call the illusion of freedom. This level is introduced when you are young, highly optimistic, and entirely financially illiterate. You receive a beautifully designed envelope offering your very first credit card. The pitch is wrapped in the seductive language of rewards, cashback percentages, and the absolute necessity of building a credit history. The trap here is purely psychological, not financial. At level 1, you are not actually in crushing, unmanageable debt. You might even pay your balance off in full every month. You feel incredibly smart. You feel like you are beating the billionaire bankers at their own game, because you are getting free airline miles for buying the groceries you are going to buy anyway. But the system is infinitely patient. The architects of this matrix know a piece of plastic that distances the psychological pain of payment from the immediate pleasure of consumption. They are actively rewiring the neural pathways in your brain. You are no longer associating a purchase with the immediate loss of hard-earned resources. You are learning to consume based on a promised, hypothetical future reality, rather than your current material truth. Level 1 is the grooming phase. The banks are perfectly willing to take a small, calculated loss on your rewards points because they are successfully installing the foundational software of debt into your daily habits. They are teaching you to view a bank-issued credit limit as a natural extension of your personal checking account. You slowly begin to rationalize carrying small balances. You leave $50 on the card, then $200. You tell yourself it is temporary, just a slight miscalculation of your monthly cash flow. But the hook is set. The invisible thread has been permanently attached to your wallet, and you are entirely unaware that the tension is about to increase exponentially. The true, terrifying danger of level 1 is that it feels incredibly safe and responsible. You are a functioning adult, actively participating in the modern economy, entirely oblivious to the fact that you have just willingly stepped into a financial cage where the door has not yet swung shut. If you think that is a cynical or exaggerated way to view a simple piece of plastic, you need to understand exactly when, how, and why this entire algorithmic mechanism was weaponized against the global population. The reality you are experiencing today was manufactured in boardrooms. It was born out of a desperate need for the financial industry to categorize, predict, and exploit human behavior at a massive, automated scale. Before the late 20th century, borrowing money required looking another human being directly in the eye. A local banker judged your character, your standing in the community, and your actual, provable capacity to produce value in the world. But human judgment is slow, prone to bias, and, most importantly, it is impossible to scale globally. The banking cartel needed a way to industrialize the issuance of debt. Enter the creation of the modern credit scoring system in 1989. This was the exact historical moment the trap became fully automated and weaponized. You abruptly ceased to be a human being with a unique life story, struggles, and potential, and were instantly reduced to a 3-digit mathematical prediction of your profitability to a faceless lender. The credit score was heavily marketed to the public as a standardized measure of financial responsibility, but that is a devastating, carefully maintained lie. A credit score does not measure your actual wealth, your total income, or your true financial stability. It measures exactly one thing: your historical willingness to borrow money and your reliability in paying it back with interest. It is, fundamentally, a loyalty score to the banking sector. The higher your score, the better of a subservient, predictable consumer you are. Once this automated system was firmly in place, the financial institutions opened the floodgates of lending. This engineered environment guarantees your smooth transition into level 2 of the debt trap, known as the lifestyle creep. At level 2, your income has likely increased slightly. You have a marginally better job, a bit of social status, and you begin to feel the immense, crushing societal pressure to visually demonstrate your success to people you barely tolerate. This is where the modern car loan aggressively enters the narrative. A vehicle is a rapidly depreciating hunk of metal, glass, and plastic that loses a quarter of its value the exact second you drive it off the dealership lot. Yet, society has thoroughly convinced you that financing a brand new car for 5, 6, or even 7 years is just standard, expected adult behavior. You are entirely focused on whether you can afford the monthly payment, completely blinding yourself to the mathematical reality that you are paying thousands of dollars in interest, the privilege of watching your net worth actively evaporate in your driveway. The banks must laugh at us behind closed doors. They are essentially running a rigged casino where they lend you the chips, charge you a massive hourly fee just for sitting at the table, and then successfully convince you that losing all your money is a symbol of extreme prestige. At level 2, the trap tightens significantly because your baseline definition of normality has shifted. You are no longer going into debt for emergencies. You are systematically going into debt for aesthetics. You finance a living room couch. You use buy now, pay later digital services for basic clothing. Every single aspect of your material existence is artificially propped up by a vast, interconnected network of microloans. The illusion of absolute freedom from level 1 has completely vanished, replaced by a constant, low-grade, vibrating anxiety about monthly cash flow. You begin to realize, usually at 3 in the morning, that your upcoming paycheck is spoken for before it even clears the bank. You are working for the auto lender, the credit card company, and the retail bank. The distance between your actual income and your basic survival begins to shrink dangerously, but the most terrifying part is that everyone around you is doing the exact same thing, continuously congratulating each other on their newly financed chains. And this collective, societal delusion is precisely what sets the stage for the ultimate financial anchor that will lock you in for decades. To understand why incredibly intelligent, highly capable people willingly march into the deepest, darkest layers of this trap, we have to deeply examine the human brain under the constant influence of financial social engineering. You are fighting millions of years of evolutionary biology every time you walk into a store or open a shopping app. Your ancient brain is hardwired for immediate survival and immediate gratification. When you see something you want, your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine, driving you to acquire it instantly. The concept of delayed pain, like a credit card bill arriving 30 days later, or an auto loan draining your accounts for 72 consecutive months, is entirely abstract. Primitive brain cannot accurately calculate the devastating weight of compound interest stretched over a decade. The financial industry does not leave this to chance. They employ armies of behavioral psychologists and neuroscientists who understand this biological vulnerability perfectly. They design marketing campaigns, frictionless digital user interfaces, and overwhelming societal narratives to bypass your logical prefrontal cortex defenses and trigger your primal emotional impulses. But the most sophisticated, devastating psychological manipulation occurs when they successfully convince you that taking on massive, life-altering debt is actually a sign of supreme financial maturity. This brings us directly to level 3 of the debt trap, the anchor. This is more commonly known as the 30-year residential mortgage. From the time you are a small child, you are relentlessly indoctrinated with the belief that homeownership is the ultimate, unquestionable milestone of human success. You are aggressively told that renting is throwing your hard-earned money away, and that a house is your absolute greatest financial asset. But let us look strictly at the cold, unforgiving mathematics of a standard 30-year mortgage. When you lock into a 30-year loan, especially in high-interest macroeconomic environments, you will often end up paying the bank double or even triple the original purchase price of the home by the time the loan matures. You have essentially agreed, in writing, to spend the absolute most productive, energetic decades of your life generating guaranteed, risk-free profits for a massive corporate institution. The house is not your asset. You are the bank's asset. If you miss just a few monthly payments, you will very quickly and violently discover who truly owns that property. Level 3 is called the anchor because it completely and utterly eliminates your geographical and occupational mobility. You become terrified of taking a bold risk, starting a disruptive business, or switching to a more fulfilling career because you have a massive, non-negotiable, legally binding payment hanging over your head every single 30 days. The immense psychological stress of maintaining this illusion of ownership. Cling to a corporate job you likely hate, trading your strictly finite time on Earth to keep the bankers satisfied and the foreclosure notices at bay. You deeply justify it by calling it good debt, blindly repeating the financial mantras you learned from people who are just as trapped and terrified as you are. But the internal psychological burden is immense and corrosive. You are carrying the heavy weight of a multi-$100,000 obligation, silently praying that a sudden medical emergency, a corporate downsizing layoff, or an unpredictable macroeconomic downturn does not completely shatter your fragile, highly leveraged reality. You are fully embedded in the system now. Your entire daily existence is fully optimized to service institutional debt. And as the immense pressure mounts, as the aggressive cost of living severely outpaces your pathetic annual wage increases, your margin for error disappears completely. This is the exact, critical moment when the system coldly pushes you over the edge, into a dark space where basic mathematics break down and sheer panicked survival takes over. Everything we have covered so far, the psychological illusion of early credit, the dangerous normalization of lifestyle loans, and the incredibly heavy, immobile anchor of the 30-year mortgage, relies entirely on one fundamental, catastrophic misunderstanding. It relies on your deeply ingrained belief that debt is a tool meant for acquiring consumer goods and funding a lifestyle. But the wealthiest 1% of society, the true architects of this system, view debt in an entirely different, almost alien dimension. They absolutely do not use debt to buy flat-screen televisions, luxury cars, or even primary residences. They aggressively weaponize debt to acquire cash-flowing, income-producing assets, legally evade massive amounts of taxation, and mathematically multiply their wealth while shifting all the actual risk squarely onto the shoulders of the working middle class. The profound paradigm shift you must internalize right this second is that the global financial system is not broken. It is operating with terrifying efficiency, exactly as it was designed to. It is meticulously designed to continuously transfer wealth from those who do not understand money to those who print it. When you fully grasp this cold, unforgiving reality, you understand the sheer devastation of level 4 of the trap, the tipping point. This is the darkest, most quiet, and most desperate phase of the debt trap. At level 4, you are no longer borrowing money to consume new products. You are desperately borrowing money just to service your past borrowing. You are using a brand new credit card to pay the minimum balance on the old, maxed out credit card. You are taking out a high-interest, unsecured personal loan to consolidate the aggressively creeping auto and credit card debts, foolishly resetting the clock but massively increasing the total principal you owe. The mathematics have officially turned against you like a predator. The compound interest is now growing significantly faster than your physical human ability to generate income. You are hopelessly trapped in a mathematical death spiral, and the daily anxiety becomes physically paralyzing. You start hiding unopened bank statements in drawers. You ignore incoming phone calls from unknown numbers, your heart racing every time your phone buzzes. The overwhelming shame deeply isolates you, making you falsely believe this is a profound personal moral failure rather than the mathematical certainty of the rigged system you were forced to play in. And this intense, silent isolation leads directly to the final, fatal stage, Level 5, the silent surrender. At Level 5, you simply stop fighting. You look at the numbers, and you accept that you will likely work until the day your heart stops beating, just to pay the compounding interest on the fleeting things you consumed a decade ago. You internalize the crushing debt as a permanent, immovable feature of your very identity. You become a docile, entirely compliant, exhausted worker bee, absolutely terrified of stepping out of line or asking for more, because the immediate financial repercussions of losing your income would be catastrophic. You have been completely assimilated into the financial matrix. The banking institutions have extracted the maximum possible lifetime value from your biological existence. You look around at your life and realize that the comfortable existence you thought you were building actually a meticulously designed cage you were financing with your own blood and sweat. The realization is absolutely crushing, but ironically, it is also the only spark that can ignite your escape. Because once you truly see the invisible bars of the cage, you can finally begin to aggressively dismantle the lock. Breaking out of this multi-tiered, deeply psychological trap is not about downloading a colorful new budgeting app or skipping your morning coffee. The smiling financial gurus who look into cameras and tell you that clipping grocery coupons will somehow save you from a structurally predatory, multi-trillion-dollar global banking system are either actively lying to you or they are financially illiterate themselves. Trying to escape the modern debt matrix by cutting out avocado toast is exactly like trying to empty the sinking Titanic with a rusty teaspoon. You need a radical, deeply aggressive, and highly psychological approach to completely deleveraging your entire life. The escape requires you to completely and violently reprogram your fundamental relationship with money, status, and the desperate need for societal approval. Step 1 is the brutal psychological audit. You must sit down in a quiet room, look at every single monthly payment you make, and ask yourself a painful question. Who are you actually trying to impress? The luxury car, the prestigious zip code, the financed living room furniture. These are not real assets. They are heavy ego taxes levied on the insecure. Completely willing to experience a massive temporary drop in your perceived social status to achieve permanent, unshakable financial invulnerability. Sell the car that is actively draining your monthly cash flow and buy something ugly, cheap, but reliable. Downgrade your lifestyle intentionally, aggressively, and without apology. The temporary, superficial pain of looking broke to people you do not even like is vastly superior to the terrifying, lifelong reality of actually being broke. Step 2 is the aggressive, weaponized cash flow redirect. You are currently bleeding precious capital through 1,000 tiny cuts of compound interest. You must stop the bleeding by targeting the highest interest rates with ruthless, military precision. Every single extra dollar you earn, every unnecessary asset you sell, must be deployed as a targeted weapon against your principal balances. You are not just trying to save a little money, you are literally trying to buy back your future time, your freedom, and your dignity from the banking cartel. You must strictly view paying off debt not as a boring household chore, but as an act of profound, aggressive rebellion against a system that explicitly wants you weak, tired, and dependent. Step 3 is the ultimate mental shift, transitioning your core identity from a consumer to an owner. As long as your primary function in the global economy is to enthusiastically consume the products of others using borrowed, expensive money, you will always be a victim. You must begin ruthlessly accumulating assets that actually pay you. You must forcibly transition from paying interest to collecting interest. This requires a fundamental rewiring of your brain's dopamine receptors. You must learn to feel the exact same thrilling rush from purchasing a fractional share of a broad market index fund or investing heavily in your own income-producing skills that you used to feel from swiping a metal credit card for a new pair of designer shoes. It is a painful, highly misunderstood, and deeply lonely journey. Your friends, your coworkers, and your family will not understand why you are driving a 10-year-old vehicle and living drastically below your actual means. They will confidently tell you that you are depriving yourself of the joy of life. But what you are actually doing is meticulously securing the ultimate, rarest luxury in all of human existence: absolute, unshakable, sovereign freedom. You are officially opting out of the harvest. You are breaking the generational cycle. The alarm clock will inevitably ring again tomorrow morning, but when your feet hit the floor, you will no longer be blind to the silent, calculating meter running in the background. You see the cold architecture of the trap now. You deeply understand how the sweet illusion of early credit dragged you into the insidious lifestyle creep, how the heavy anchor of a mortgage locked you permanently into place, and how the entire financial ecosystem was perfectly engineered to bring you to the devastating point of silent surrender. You are awake. If you are ready to step out of this system, hit that like button and subscribe to Chanti Invests right now. But knowing how this overarching debt trap controls your life is only the first foundational step. To truly dismantle the chains, you must understand the microscopic, mathematically rigged mechanics of the exact instrument they used. Meticulously bleed your monthly income dry. The illusion of easy monthly installments is perhaps the most dangerous, deceptive psychological trick ever invented by the modern financial sector. To understand your life at every level of EMI trap, you need to see what's hiding in plain sight. We break it down completely in the video on your screen right now. Click it, and let's continue the journey.